Welcome to this video on media bias. In this video, you are going to learn about media bias and political orientations, what they are, and why understanding them matters, where you can find the Otero media bias chart and how to interpret it, the two ways, vertical and lateral reading, that can help you look at your stories, and also ways that you can get help from the ECC librarians. News is everywhere. It's constant, especially with 24/7 news services and social media. And especially with social media, everyone has the potential to become a reporter of sorts. We keep hearing all of these kinds of words thrown around: fake news, liberal, viral content, media bias, opinions or commentaries, objectivity, conservative or right, journalism, fake photos. And as people feel more and more polarized about these topics, it feels like a storm has descended upon us. How can we start to step back from that storm, take note of it, and more confidently evaluate the news that we're seeing? Attorney Vanessa Otero hopes to get us thinking more objectively about common news sources by creating this chart that she has made, evaluating different news agencies and news sources. She evaluates the news in two ways. One on the x-axis, which is partisan bias or political orientation, and overall accuracy or quality of the news reporting from the source, which is on the y-axis. Eventually, we can see here how Otero turns those two judgments into classified categories here. And there are different zones of less political bias and more fact-checking, more accuracy in reporting in the green zone, and sources slowly fall down the y-axis on quality of reporting, as well as lean right or to the left in political bias. Keep in mind that the chart is ultimately Otero's informed opinion, although they do have a classification system shared on the website that they have developed, but this chart does not replace your careful analysis of your articles. Let's dig deeper into the x-axis. Partisan bias may also be known as political bias. It's important when we dissect bias to keep in mind that everyone who is a human being has some bias. Everyone from all over the world comes from all walks of life. Everyone has had experiences that have moved them, affected them. They've learned things from other people that have affected their thinking, and everyone has been influenced by at least one other person. The Chambers Dictionary defines bias as a one-sided inclination or a special influence that sways one's thinking, or even an imbalance. So bias kind of spotlights what we look at, what we notice, and how we notice it. We can be biased about trivial things, such as where you can get the best Italian food in your area, or we can be biased about serious political topics such as immigration. Now, let's discuss the other part of partisan bias, which is partisan. What do we mean when we talk about partisanship or political orientation? What do we generally mean when we say liberal or conservative? Often, but not always, they tie in with being a Democrat or a Republican. Even that, though, can be fluid and change. Studying political orientation would be its own deep study. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to paint with a broad brush. From Auburn University, the main idea for political conservatism is keeping things as they traditionally have been, as that is the best system possible. Alternatively, The main framework for liberalism is acceptance for all people and giving government the responsibility and the mission to uplift marginalized groups and to progress. To become familiar with what liberals or conservatives generally might believe on given common issues, you can visit the Political Typology report on the Research Guide. For reading more on partisanship and political orientation, including how it relates to bias, these are some options here of places for you to look, as well as some search terms. Let's go deeper into the y-axis. That is overall quality of the journalism as far as accuracy, objectivity, and fairness. As we think of sources and their objectivity, we want to take them literally in steps. For the most educated and objective viewpoint, it is best to stay higher, and the further down the bottom toward that a source falls on quality, the less and less you want to go down, if you want to go down at all. At the top is fact reporting, and these are Otero's word-for-word categories. Think of newswires and the main news services. These sources get the facts out there, they fact check. They don't make a point to judge, evaluate, or interpret the story. The next step down on the chart is stories that go deeper into analysis. They also, at this step, can go into interpretation of events, and interpretation often comes from bias or outlook. Down the next step is a grander scale interpretation, and the story might even be incomplete or one-sided. At the very bottom of this stairs is the worst of the worst, your inaccurate or your fabricated information. Otero strongly condemns these as damaging to the public discourse. So, as you travel down the stairs, you want to stay away from using these sources. For more information on media bias and journalistic objectivity, please see the source suggestions and use the following search terms given. Here is the Otero chart again. Here is the x-axis, the political bias. Here is the journalistic objectivity on the y-axis, and then here are where Otero has classified different news sources depending on those two axes. Remember, Otero's chart is just to get you started and shouldn't be the final say in your evaluation. Here are some key questions to think about as you evaluate sources. These are organized into both vertical reading, which is on the source, and lateral reading, which is outside of the source. Some questions here for vertical reading. Is there a fact-checking process for the publication? And if so, what is it? As you read the tone of the information, how does it sound? Simply informational? Is emotion creeping in or definite opinion? Does the source link to other verified sources inside of it? And considering how complex the topic itself is, how complex is that topic presented in the source that you're looking at? This set of questions has to do with lateral reading. That is, reading about a source outside of the source itself. Some of these questions are, where does the publication fall on the media bias chart? If you look at the reputation of the publication, what are other organizations or journalists saying about that publication? Can you trace any of the claims in your news story into other quality sources? And what else in general can you find online about your source or the topic itself? Please keep in mind that even being inside the ECC library databases does not mean that you can skip evaluating your source for bias and reputation. Here is Mother Jones. This is in Otero's yellow zone, presented and found 3 different ways. You can find the story on Google. You can find the story in print at the ECC library, and you can also find the article in the library's databases. In any of these locations, the same slant and bias can occur. So it's critical to evaluate sources on an article-by-article basis, no matter where you get it from. Looking at sources on an article-by-article basis itself is vertical reading. Lateral reading, that is going outside of the source, is needed as well. The best way to laterally read is to SIFT. Educator Mike Caulfield shows you how to laterally read through his SIFT videos. Here is a link to a graphic that visually explains the SIFT techniques, and you can also visit Mike's instructional videos through his YouTube account. For your convenience, Mike Caulfield's videos on SIFT can also be found on the class research guide at the SIFT method of lateral reading page. They are organized here in this box, and you can scroll by the acronym to access the videos. As you do your research, here's the main thing to keep in mind. Be inquisitive of all of your sources, and you will notice the acronym that is vertical there. This holds true no matter what source put it out, no matter where you found it, and you can use vertical and lateral reading to satisfy your curiosity in evaluating that source. For further learning and Mike Caulfield's information presented in text form, if that's easier for you to learn, check out his ebook here at the following URL to learn more about the SIFT techniques and more.